Long before the anti-heroes of modern cinema, American storytelling established a foundational archetype, the brilliant, manipulative troublemaker, and Mark Twain perfected him with Tom Sawyer. When tasked with the grueling labor of whitewashing a massive fence, Tom pivots to psychological leverage. He presents the drudgery as an exclusive art form, watching as his peers pay him in apples and brass doorknobs for a chance to do his chores. Look at this collection of vintage Sunday school tickets. Tom treats religious piety as just another economy to exploit. By trading his trinkets to other children for their hard-earned blue and yellow scripture tickets, he buys his way to a prestigious Bible prize without ever actually opening the book. His scheming reacts to the rigid adults governing his life. Aunt Polly demands order, and Mr. Dobbins enforces absolute compliance. These empty desks reflect uninspiring scripts. Tom's restlessness suggests an intelligence gasping for air in an environment rewarding obedience over originality. At this stage in his life, his rebellions are purely performative. It's a low-stakes game of outsmarting a society that values superficial appearances over actual substance. That low-stakes game shatters when the story leaves the organized town and enters the wild, superstitious realm of the graveyard at midnight. Tom and his friend Huckleberry Finn sneak into the dark for a deeply absurd, childish reason. They brought a dead cat, fully believing it will magically cure their bodily warts. But the make-believe violently ends. Hiding in the shadows, the boys watch the local criminal Injun Joe brutally stab Doc Robinson to death, framing the town drunk Muff Potter for the crime. Terrified of a very real killer, the boys retreat into the only coping mechanism they have, childhood tropes.
They draw up a literal blood oath, swearing to keep their mouth shut out of sheer panic. Tom psychologically regresses. Attempting to flee these heavy adult consequences, he runs away down the river to Jackson's Island, deciding it's much easier to simply play pirate. He even sneaks back into town to secretly attend his own funeral, soaking up the grief of his family to feed his childish ego. But underneath that performance, a crushing guilt over the falsely accused Muff Potter begins to gnaw at him. His moral conscience is waking up. Muff Potter eventually sits in a tense, sweating courtroom, facing the gallows for a murder he absolutely did not commit. Tom faces an agonizing psychological choice. He can honor his blood oath, stay perfectly safe, and let an innocent man hang. Or he can expose himself to a murderer. He chooses to take the stand. In front of the entire town, he breaks his vow of silence and publicly names Injun Joe as the true killer. Instantly, the real world fights back. Injun Joe violently lunges toward Tom, shattering the order of the courtroom as he escapes through a window. Tom proves that true moral courage isn't about being fearless. It's the willingness to abandon the safety of childhood make-believe the moment a real human life is on the line. His ultimate physical test arrives shortly after. Tom and his classmate Becky Thatcher wander too far during a picnic and become hopelessly lost deep inside a pitch-black cave system, the exact same cave where Injun Joe is hiding. Down here, the rules of the civilized town no longer apply. Tom's fast-talking charm and manipulation are completely useless in the dark. The only things that matter now are grit and survival instincts. Notice how Tom methodically navigates this labyrinth. Without an audience to perform for, he relies on tactile logic, using his kite string as a physical lifeline to anchor himself while he scouts the lightless tunnels for an exit. He successfully leads Becky out to safety. The town erupts in celebration, and after Tom uncovers a massive treasure hidden inside the caverns, he transitions from a local nuisance to a celebrated hero. It highlights exactly why American culture is so drawn to the troublemaker archetype. Polite society constantly scolds and disciplines its rebels, yet we can't stop telling stories about them. Independence to ignore a blood oath, cunning to map a lightless cave, and total disregard for arbitrary rules. The specific traits that make a child a menace are the exact same traits required to act heroically when the rest of society is paralyzed by fear.